As another example of displacement, let us consider the motion of a seconds hand in a wall clock. Say at t equals to 0, the seconds hand is at 12. At t equals to 15 second, the seconds hand will be at 3. At t equals to 30 second, the seconds hand will be at 6. Again at t equals to 60 second, the seconds hand will be at 12. So at t equals to 30 second, what is the displacement of the tip of the seconds hand? If the length of the seconds hand is r, then at t equals to 30 second, the displacement will be simply 2r. And at time 60 second, the displacement will be simply 0. But see, the distance traveled by the tip of the seconds hand at t equals to 30 second will be pi r, and the distance traveled at t equals to 60 second will be 2 pi r, this total circumference. So this is the difference between distance and displacement. Now acceleration. Now if the velocity of a particle does not change in the course of its motion, then we say that the velocity remains constant. But if the velocity changes, then we say that the particle has an acceleration. Suppose say at time t1, the particle has a velocity v1, and at time t2, the particle has a velocity v2. Then we can write the average acceleration as v2 minus v1 by t2 minus t1. Please note that the numerator is a vectorial difference. Now if the time difference t2 minus t1 is very small and we denote it by delta t, then the instantaneous acceleration may be defined as limit delta t tends to 0 delta v by delta t, where delta v is v2 minus v1, which is also a small quantity in the limit when delta t tends to 0. So here again instantaneous acceleration is basically the slope of the v versus t curve at the time instant t. So basically it is the tangent at the time instant t. By acceleration we normally means instantaneous acceleration, and it is denoted as dv dt. So again the unit is in SI system meter per second square, and in CGS system it is centimeter per second square, because you see the acceleration is velocity per unit time. Again velocity is displacement per unit time, so acceleration is displacement by time square. So according to this formula we get these units, and the dimension is L t minus 2. dv dt is basically d dt of v, and again v is dr dt. That means here we have d2r dt2. Now let us derive the equations of straight line motion. Under the assumption that the acceleration remains constant. Now we have the equation of acceleration considering only the magnitude as a equals to dv dt, which we can rewrite as now let us consider that the particle at the time instant t equals to 0 was at the point A, and it had an initial velocity of u. It performs a straight line motion and reaches point B at time instant t, where the final velocity is v and there is a constant acceleration a. So using proper limits, we get from this equation, integrating from u to v, dv equals to a 0 to t dt, we will get v minus u equals to at, which we can rewrite as v equals to u plus at. So this is the first equation of kinematics. Again, we can write this equation as ds dt, where v equals to ds dt equals to u plus at. Rearranging, we will get u dt plus at dt. Again, integrating 0 to s ds, where we are assuming that the particle was moving along the x-axis and the particle at time instant t equals to 0 was at the origin. That means the displacement here was s equals to 0 and the displacement here is simply s. So we are integrating from 0 to s on the left hand side, and on the right hand side we have 0 to t dt. Since u is a constant quantity, it has a constant initial velocity, plus acceleration is constant, and within the integral we have t dt, integrating from 0 to t, and finally we will get s equals to ut plus half at square. So this is the second equation of kinematics. Now again consider equation 1. Square both sides. We will get v square equals to u square plus 2u at plus a square t square. From these two terms, we take 2a as common. But this one, according to equation 2, is simply s. So finally we have the third equation of kinematics, v square equals to u square plus 2as. Now remember, we had the equation v equals to u plus at, or ds equals to u dt plus at dt. Now if we want to find out the distance traveled by the particle in the tth second, okay, please note that we are talking about distance. In one-dimensional motion, distance and displacement are both synonymous. So if we want to find out the distance traveled by the particle in the tth second, then we will integrate this equation, distance in the tth second ds, from t minus 1 to t. So we are considering the motion only in the time limit from t minus 1 to t, that means in the tth second, plus so here we have t minus t plus 1 plus half a t square minus t minus 1 whole square. So this term will be t square minus 2t plus 1, and here we have a minus sign also. So finally the result will be u plus half a 2t minus 1. So this is the fourth equation of kinematics. So finally, summarizing all, we have V equals to U plus AT as the first equation, S equals to UT plus half AT square as the second equation. The third equation is V square equals to U square plus 2AS, and the fourth equation is distance traveled in the tth second is U plus half A2t minus 1. Now if you check the dimensions, all the three equations are okay, but here you can find a confusion that on the left hand side S represents distance, which is unit meter, and here it is U, which is a unit meter per second. But remember from this calculation that this U has with it multiplied 1 second. This term is not U, but U multiplied with 1 second. So it's not meter per second, but basically the unit is meter. So these are the four equations of straight line motion or rectilinear motion. Now let us generalize these four equations to motion under gravity. That means object falling freely under the effect of gravitational acceleration. Here we just replace A by minus G. Since we are considering the plus Z axis by convention as positive, and the acceleration due to gravity G always acts downwards towards the center of the earth, so we use minus G rather than plus G. If we substitute minus G here, and normally as a conventional notation we replace S by H. So all these four equations will be rewritten as V equals to U plus, so all these four equations will be rewritten as V equals to U minus GT, H equals to U minus half GT square, V square equals to U square minus 2G H TH U minus half G 2T minus 1. So these are the four equations for motion under gravity. Now let us consider that an object is thrown from the ground with initial velocity u along the positive z direction, that means upwards. Then what will be the maximum height attained by the object? So we can use equation number 3. Here you see that at the maximum point reached, here the final velocity v will be 0. So apply this condition in equation 3, you will get 0 equals to u square minus 2g h, where I write capital H as the maximum height reached. So h will be u square by 2g. This is a useful equation. Now let us calculate the total time of flight, which we denote as capital T, after the object is thrown with initial velocity u, reaches the maximum height and comes back to the Earth's surface. Because the object comes back to the Earth's surface, so the total displacement h will be 0. So we put h equals to 0 in equation 2 and put capital T in place of small t, so we will get u capital T minus half g capital T square. So we get t equals to 2u by g. This is another useful equation in motion under gravity. Now let us calculate the time of ascending. That means the time taken for the object after it is being thrown with the velocity u up to the maximum point it reaches. That means at the topmost point v is 0. So from equation 1 we have minus g t prime, where t prime denotes the time of ascending. So t prime is u by g, and previously we obtained the total time of flight as 2u by g. So you see the time of descent, if we denote it by t double prime, then it will again be equals to u by g, which is equals to the time of ascending. So the two times are same, the time taken to reach the maximum point, again the time taken to reach the lowermost point. Now again summarizing all, we write the final results. The maximum height reached is h equals to u square by 2g. The total time of flight t equals to 2u by g. The time of ascending or descending t prime equals to u by g. Now let us discuss the nature of some plots for motion of a particle in a straight line. First we will discuss the displacement versus time plots. So the first case, if the particle is stationary, that means either it has a constant displacement or it has displacement 0. In that case the s versus t curve will be either a straight line at a value c or a straight line along the x-axis or the time axis. The second case, if the particle moves with constant velocity, in that case constant velocity means ds dt equals to constant or ds equals to c dt. Here in place of ds we are using s, and in place of t we are using t. So we can write this equation s equals to constant multiplied by t. So this is basically a straight line equation passing through origin. So this will be the nature of the plot. The third case, if the particle moves with negative constant velocity, in that case the equation will be minus c t. That means again the graph will be a straight line but with a negative slope. It will start from a certain positive or maybe negative also, certain value of displacement, and the graph will be of negative slope. Now the fourth case is increasing velocity or non-zero acceleration. In that case s versus t curve will no longer be a straight line. Since the velocity is increasing, that means the slope of the s versus t curve which denotes the velocity, will gradually increase with time t. The fifth case, decreasing velocity. That means non-zero deceleration. Please note that deceleration means nothing but negative acceleration. That means non-zero negative acceleration. So the S versus t curve will be a curve with decreasing slope. Even the curve can reach a maximum and after that go downwards also. Next is velocity versus time graph. So the first case is zero velocity or a constant non-zero velocity. In both cases, the v versus t curve will be parallel to the time axis, either at a certain positive constant value or overlapping with the time axis. The second case is constant acceleration. In this case, the v versus t curve will be similar to as before in case of S versus t curve with constant velocity. Here we are drawing the curve with constant acceleration. We will have a straight line passing through the origin with a positive slope, because v equals to acceleration multiplied by t is the equation, and the slope of the curve will give the value of the acceleration. The third point is constant acceleration but with a non-zero initial velocity. In this case, the curve will be similar to the curve in number 2, but it will start from a non-zero value of velocity, and again the slope of the curve will give the acceleration. The fourth case is constant deceleration. Here the v versus t curve will be again a straight line but of negative slope. The slope of the curve will again give the magnitude of the deceleration. The fifth case is increasing acceleration. Here the v versus t curve will be of increasing slope. At each time instant, again the slope of the curve will give the value of that instantaneous acceleration. 6. Decreasing acceleration. The v versus t plot will be of gradually decreasing slope. The seventh curve is decreasing deceleration. The curve will be of negative slope, but the magnitude of the slope will decrease. That means the particle will gradually attain a constant velocity. The last one is increasing deceleration. Here the curve will be of negative slope but increasing magnitude. So this is all for today's lecture on rectilinear motion. we will come back again with more physics. So hope to see you again.